Welcome back to another episode of the Biker PM. I'm your host, Anthony Pavelich. Today we have with us Anne Flamant. She is a fractional CMO and marketing course creator. Through her company Dare and Defy, she helps entrepreneurs and founders set up and optimize their marketing strategy to get their marketing dollars go at the longest way in connecting and engaging with followers, converting them into lifelong customers and advocates. As a marketing strategist, she has over 15 years of experience in startups and corporations in Europe and North America. Anne is an expert at distilling what makes a business unique to design and implement a tailored strategy focused on bringing value to your clients, ethically, purposely, and consciously. So let's get started. Hi, Anne. Thank you for joining me today. I'm happy to have you with us.
Hi, Anthony. So glad to be here.
So let's get started just by giving me a little introduction of yourself and about your business, and then we'll take it from there.
So my business is called Dare and Defy, and it provides strategic and marketing consulting to entrepreneurs and founders. Right now, I'm helping entrepreneurs and founders by giving them frameworks and helping them with fractional CMO services so that they can optimize their marketing operation, their marketing strategy, and implementation. So the fractional CMO service is really more for founders of companies that have been in business for 3 to 5 years, and they are ready to take their business to the next level. They're building their marketing team and they need some guidance on how to do that and how to build their team, coaching their team, and they don't have the capacity or the brain space. It's not in their zone of genius to do this. And with the entrepreneurs, I'm creating some programs so that first-time entrepreneurs can go and set up their marketing in 8 weeks.
That's perfect. And it's very much along the line of what I am trying to do is working with entrepreneurs in the project management and process space to help them set it up in the beginning until they get to a point like your program that they need to scale and they don't know how to do it themselves and they can't do it, or they're hiring somebody to do the more complicated stuff for them. So it's kind of why I really wanted to talk to you today. I know we met a while back on a different Zoom call, and I wanted to, at that point, it's funny because I made a note to contact you about doing a podcast with you. And so I finally got around a couple weeks ago to send you that email. So I'm glad you were able to join me today. So how did you get started in doing marketing? We're going to get back to the fact that you mentioned to me at one point you do have a project management background. But how did you get involved in marketing?
So I got involved in marketing when I was 18 years old, 19 years old. So I graduated from high school in France. And like many French people who don't know what they want to do, I went to law school. Apparently, law school is the dump for people who don't know what to do. And so
don't tell this will come out later, but don't tell the episode that dropped today because he was a lawyer. But he ended up moving on, so yeah.
The thing is that in France, you get there when you're 18 and they prepare you. It's kind of like a preload that goes for like 4 years before you actually studying to become a barrister or anything else and you take the bar. So they have a lot of weed out, and usually they weed out about 85 to 90% of the people coming in within the first 6 months. We're really doing like the dumb thing, and then they weed people out in France. But yeah, I lasted about 3 months. Expo was really not for me.
Yeah.
I think that it ended when the dean stood in front of a 500 people amphitheater where every single seat were taken and people were sitting in the stairs and against the walls on the floor. And he started with, "Don't even think that you are intelligent enough to have an opinion before you've been published in the Journal of Law." And you're just like, okay, not for me.
Scare tactics.
Yeah, I think it was really scare tactics, and it works. Like, it's very efficient. By the second week, you have half of the amphitheater not coming to class anymore.
So you decided to go into marketing. What drew you to marketing?
So after doing a little stint in law school, I decided that I really didn't know what I wanted to do. So I went to live in Ireland for a year, where I worked in pubs. And when I came back to France, I found another job in a pub. I was washing dishes for a couple of weeks, and then I got promoted to waiting tables. And after 6 months, I was managing the place, and I was behind the bar, and I was in charge of all of the happy hours and the events and the concerts and their promotion. So that was my first kind of dip your toe into marketing, of marketing the concert, the happy hours, the sporting events. And I just loved it. I worked for a couple of years like this, and I decided to go back to school after 3 years, I think. And when I went back to school, I decided to learn business and marketing. So that's how I ended up in business school. Another, yes, I did law school and then I went to business school. I did it them all, apparently. Except engineering. I didn't do any engineering and politics. But yeah, I went to business school and I majored in marketing, and I did all of my internships, and I put myself through business school, continuing to work in the hospitality industry until my second to last year of school. And I ended up working all around the world. I worked in the UK, I worked in Switzerland, in Spain, well, in Ireland, a little bit in France. That's where I'm from. And I spent some time in New York in the US, and I came to Canada in 2013. So eight
So how
years
did
ago.
you land in Canada then? After all
Uh,
those places, what made you decide Canada was the place you wanted to land?
so for me, it was based on the opportunity, based on the visa. So is it easy to get a visa? And I narrowed down my choice to New Zealand, which is one of my bucket lists that I will definitely do within the
I've
next few
a
years.
really good friend that lives there that came to Canada for a year on a work visa. He works in the medical field, and he's back in New Zealand. Fellow motorcycle enthusiast and cigar enthusiast, and we still keep in touch. But he's been gone for 4 or 5 years now.
Yeah, New Zealand is like such a great country, and because it's part of the Commonwealth, it's really easy to get visas. Coming from a European country, we have also a lot of bilateral agreement with many
Mhm.
countries with France. So yeah, I decided Canada or New Zealand, and it was easier because I have a dog, and it was just easier to come to Canada instead of New Zealand. So I ended up in Canada for the next adventure in my seventh country. And I worked for a big bank, Scotiabank, for 3 years when I first came here. I started with like a 2 months little administrative contract in the compliance department, and then I moved on onto a mat leave contract in the marketing department, and rebounded on this for 3 years until I had my permanent residency, and I decided to start my own company in Canada. So it was in 2016.
That is quite an adventure and quite a curved road to where you're at now.
Yep.
Not a straight path. So what did you do when you first started out with your business? What was your goal and your focus then compared to what it is now?
Hmm. I knew nothing, and I still don't know much, to be honest. I love the fact that with entrepreneurship, whatever idea you have of it, once you experience it, you end up understanding that it was completely different from what you were thinking.
That is very true. You think you're gonna work anytime you want. You think it's gonna be you set your own hours. It's not always the case. You
Well, that
sometimes work harder
depends.
than you do at a job.
You definitely do, but
Yeah,
I feel like you're working so many more hours, but it's such more fulfilling compared to a corporate job because you're
definitely
really building something. So, of course, you can make your own hours and you can organize, or you can choose to work less, but that also shows in the results in your company. So, when I
agreed.
first started, I was like, I'm just going to do like some kind of freelancing, and I'm just going to find like clients. And I was very lucky because I'm one of those people who go with the flow and go wherever the water and the current takes me. And when I left Scotiabank, I found a small 6 months contract with a tiny company to set up their entire marketing. And I fell in love again with marketing because I got that marketing fatigue after 15 years in the corporate world. I did pretty much all the jobs that you can think about. I I worked on many aspects of marketing, like you name it. I did some social media since 2008. I did some merchandising, some trade marketing, email marketing, direct marketing when it was still like mailings. I worked in publishing, I worked in events, hospitality, luxury, fashion, beauty, like really, you name it, I've probably done it. And I finished like my last job before coming to Canada was head of marketing for a startup in Geneva. So that's how I got my fit into the tech industry. And then I came to Canada and went back to financial services and marketing. But it's really funny because marketing is one of those disciplines that is so wide and so innovative and creative that you can't really get bored because there's always a new tool, there's always a new tactic. And if you really see it for what it really is, which is to me a social science, you have so much to do around behaviors and how people consume content and their
Yeah,
behavior patterns.
it's true because you think about, I know, and I've read this in a lot of places and talked to a lot of people, and some people think that, if you just go out there and start pushing information out, that's marketing. And it's not. There is so much more to it. And I've been in some workshops and that have delved deep into, how you engage. And being a project manager, engagement's been a big thing for me anyways with stakeholders. So you learn that engagement. But yeah, marketing is more than, a lot of people just think it's like you said, you've done email marketing, you've done uh, many different types of marketing, but it's not just pushing information out there. You have to understand and research your ideal customer, and that's like, it is a science.
It is, and there's a lot of behavioral and psychology around it, which is absolutely fascinating. Like the psychology of people, why they're buying, when do they buy, how do they consume information. This is really fascinating. And like you said, like pushing information does not work anymore. It worked maybe in the 80s and maybe in the early 90s when the internet was not such a big thing. But now that the internet is such a big thing and that we're not really relying on like TV ads and stuff like this, um, we became an economy of merchant of attention. Anybody who has a keyboard, anybody who has a smartphone, anybody who has a mic, they can push content out there. So when you are bombarded by millions of information put down by literally anyone, how do you stand out in a crowd to your customers? And that's by reverse engineering everything and the content putting out content that not only do you want to push it, so something that you have to say, something that you've built, something that you've created, something that you want to put out there, but really like there's a work that needs to be done around, okay, this is what I want to build, this is what I want to create, this is what I want to say. But then go back to, okay, so those are the people I'm going to try to talk to. What do they need? What's their pain point, their challenges, their problems? What would bring value to their life? How do I make their life easier? And then you confront the me, which is what you want to do and create and say, with the they, which is what they actually need. And then you create the we by merging the two so that you can put out there not only pushing what you have to say, but creating content that will pull people toward you.
Do you feel overwhelmed, overstimulated, and overworked? There's so much that you need to do, but you don't know what the best way to do it is? And you're not sure where all your time goes each week? Jump on over to my website, pavproconsulting.com. You can download my free PDF, The 5 Proven Strategies to Steal Back Lost Time and Money in Your Business. And while you're there, you can book a free process discovery session, pavproconsulting.com. Move forward with confidence, focus, and productivity. I love how you phrase that, because getting what they need versus what you want and creating the we. I like creating the we because that's, I think, where a lot of people struggle. I have to be honest, I struggle sometimes with, especially my wording, trying to get, to be able to express what I want to say in terms that the entrepreneur, the other, my ideal person would understand. I held a workshop last week, on stakeholder engagement, and I discovered I didn't use stakeholder when in the title, but I discovered that some people didn't even understand what a stakeholder was. So they were, I thought you meant shareholder. So trying to understand, and you have to actually communicate and figure out, well, what do you think of? What words come to mind when you're looking at this, this situation, so that you can use that in your engaging and getting to your ideal client.
That's exactly this, actually. It's just you need to meet people where they are at. You can't wait for people to come to you and to your level. It's really in talking to people. Like, that's everybody's asking what's the secret ingredient of great marketing or great business and entrepreneurship. It's just really talking to people, because you can't guess. You can make educated guess, but then you need to confront those guesses with the reality. So talking to people. And I remember the first piece of advice I got as an entrepreneur was talk to 100 people before you put anything out there. And I'm going to be honest, like 100 people, that freaked me out. I was like, how can I talk to 100 people? Like, this is
Yeah.
impossible. And 4 years later, I probably talk with 5,000 people, and I'm still talking to people, and I'm still listening and refining and seeing what relates to people, what people relate with, so that I can really hit the mark with whatever it is that I'm creating.
Yeah, I think we have to continually refine because society is constantly changing. The tool, like you said earlier, there's so many new tools constantly, you can't get bored. Those tools constantly change how we have to refine what we're saying and how we're even engaging and talking to those people. So let's talk about everything you've got going on, because you've got, we were talking a little bit beforehand, and you do have a few things going on. So let's talk about everything you've got going on, and how do you keep track of all of it? How do you not overlap? How do you not like overload yourself?
Whew, that is a big one. Um, Honestly, I get overwhelmed. I overwhelm myself pretty much on the daily, if I'm
Yeah.
being honest, because I'm one of those people with like an idea every 10 minutes. And I'm like, oh my God, I need to implement this. And then I'm like, oh my God, I have like 20 different new ideas that I want to implement. And there's only 24 hours in a day. And what am I doing?
And it really
So,
sucks at 5 o'clock in the morning when they come to you and you're in bed and you just want to go back to sleep. I have that happen to me at times, and I'm just like, I do not want to get up and write this down right now. Hopefully I'll remember it when I wake up.
yeah, I stopped doing that because I never remember when I wake up. And usually they happen between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. because I'm usually getting up between 4 and 5 a.m. So I'm actually connected and working at 7 a.m. And so yeah, the keeping track of IDs, like I've been writing down like brain dump all over, like piece of paper, notebooks everywhere, note taking apps on the phone. Whenever that hits, just like jot it down, and then at the end of the week I gather everything and I organize it. It's very much like a project management kind of tool, except I do it with not only projects but also with IDs, and see like how can those fit within the plan that I have, and how can I prioritize so that something that an idea that is taking only a couple of hours to implement, maybe I can do it here and maybe it fits within that project. Or maybe this is a broader, bigger idea and it needs more development and it needs its own project. So I kind of like do this and I work backward. I realized when I was back in Switzerland that marketing needs to be organized. And there are so many different projects, so many different initiatives, so many different strategies, tactics, and tools that it's very easy to get something that is uncoordinated, especially when you work with different service providers. Like maybe you have a web designer, maybe you have a social media person, someone who does SEO, someone who writes copy. And when you have a team, it becomes very inefficient to run it as a regular department because there are so many things. So I ended up taking a course with Villanova University in Pennsylvania to do some project management. I never got certified PMP, but the analysis and the how to get stakeholders approval, how to organize, how to prioritize, how to work backward. Like this is something that in marketing we don't usually do innately. Usually we have like the idea of a project and we start like working on the project and then we release it whenever it's ready. Or sometimes we have a deadline and we kind of catching up to the deadline and we're just running to do it. But working backward and having like, okay, this is my date of delivery and this is what needs to happen from that date to today. It's not something that we do like regularly, because marketers are usually more, there's a couple of people that are very analytical, but most of the marketers are more like creative people and a little bit out there. And so like for me, project management changed my life and the way I implemented all of my projects, to be honest. And it's still like, it still has a huge impact on how I organize, especially in my business, because as I said, brain dump, and like, where does that even fit? Because if I can spend literally my entire time ideating and strategizing, and everything keeps being pretty ideas in my head that never see the light of day, which is pretty sad if we're thinking about it. So at some point, like, it's great to have that framework where I can just sit down and brain dump all of my ideas, organize them, put them into projects, work backward from delivery date, and really get things done and not just scrambling around to get something out there. Really do things properly.
So what tools do you use to keep track of that? Is there
Oh
a
my
tool?
God.
Like, is
What,
there, do you use like
what don't I
Asana? Yeah.
I have so many different things. Like, I'm part of different communities, different masterminds, and different programs. So I have some tools. Like, for instance, every morning I'm doing deep work sprints with a couple of entrepreneurs, and we have a spreadsheet goal tracker, and it's basically to work on our business. It's not client work. So we're using a spreadsheets like that to break down projects into sub projects and to keep each other accountable and have a place where we can like gather. I'm on another mastermind and we set goals for the quarter and then we check in every other week. So there's another goal tracker for those particular projects that I'm doing with the group, which are different from the projects from the other groups. Then I have Trello, and I'm using boards and cards on Trello so that I can keep track, because it's easy to invite clients to be part of those boards and to really track like who does what and when, and to color code everything. It really goes like from anything to everything, and that's really based on the clients that I'm working with or the team I'm working with, because it's, as an entrepreneur, it's really your job to like fit into the mold of other people and to meet
Yes.
other people where they are. So sometimes they're super tech savvy and they're super organized and they have like some fancy systems, and sometimes it's a Google Sheet or an Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah. I know I have clients. I have one that I use Avaza with. I use Trello for myself. I have one client that I use Jira with. I'm setting up, I have a new client that I'm setting up on ClickUp, which is a tool that I've never heard of before, but it's going to work perfectly for her business. So yeah, so like you, I've used Axosoft. I've used so many different tools. It's based on the client. Because a lot of times they're already used to using something, so you kind of have to meld into them. So it doesn't get boring because you have to learn. You may have to learn something new a lot.
Mm. And the last thing you want is having to teach your client about a tool.
Yeah. Although with one client that I have now, I'm going to be teaching her because we're going to learn it together because she doesn't really have a tool, and uh, finding a new tool that is my big deal with finding a new tool is you have to make sure one first of all, it's something the client's going to use, because you don't want to have them start using something and or suggest something and it's going to be, they're just going to ignore it. And also something that is scalable, something that can grow with you, so you don't have to switch tools, because that's a bigger pain, is to start with something and then outgrow it
Yeah.
quickly and then have to migrate all your information to something else.
Yeah, it takes a long time to set everything up. So yeah, you need to do the research before you choose a tool.
Yes, yes. And that's, and make sure that, again, it's something you can use and that you can grow with. Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Biker PM. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment. I'd love to hear what you think. And remember, if you're an entrepreneur that wants to be with like-minded individuals and improving their project management skills, join the Biker PM Facebook group. Until next time.